Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special pre-Republican National Convention edition of #Malkin Live. I'm going to sort of stretch things out a little bit before I get into some of the meatier topics that I wanted to call your attention to before convention begins. Because I believe that obviously what's going on across the country, roiling communities, be they inner cities, coast bubble cities, Democrat-dominated cities, or suburbs, even our own backyards and supposedly safe spaces. This is what should be front and center at the RNC, at the White House, and all of the messaging. And so I'm going to sort of set the table before day 2 of the RNC. Hello, everybody. I'm echoing. Okay, people are hearing an echo. That is not good. Where's that coming from? Give me a second. Hang on, everyone. I don't want you to have to hear me in stereo. Let's do this way. Hang on. Boomer tech. That's not good. I don't have a producer. It's just me. Let's see. Skip a bit too. Yeah, I can't help that. It's gremlins. Still echoing? Let me know, guys. You are my producers. I'm crowdsourcing the job. Yeah, for some reason I can't hear myself in my. That's what it is. Better, or guys? It's good. Yeah, the thing is, I can't hear myself in my headphones though. All right, I'm just going to take these off. Okay, how's this? Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3, 2. Not good. Still got the echo. Okay, it's crappy. Let's fix it. Cameras, FaceTime, audio. Let's see. See, real here. Totally authentic and real. Definitely not conning, right? Definitely not Coke funded action here. Let's try this. Okay, I'm using all internal speakers now. How's that? All internal. Echo, no echo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Okay, Chief Trumpster, I rely on you, man. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm just using my native internal microphone from my Mac. I have a USB plug-in microphone that I usually use, plus the headphones because I want to be playing some video, but we'll see. Okay, great. Thank you, all of my friends. So great to see you. We've got some 3,000 people watching. That is so cool. Okay, a Y or an N? Are you excited about night 2 of the Republican National Convention? Oh, that's cool. I didn't mean to put that there. Y or N? Yeah, yeah. So I asked early on, I don't know if some of you might have seen this. Tell me in comments who your favorite and least favorite speakers from last night were. I'm really curious. We got a live poll uh, coming on tonight, and I'll tell you who my favorites were. I tweeted about it. I thought the McCloskeys were excellent. I was afraid that they might be put on a leash and controlled and not be able to say what they really thought about the mob that invaded their neighborhood, invaded their lawn, violated their property rights, and forced them to have to defend themselves. But I thought the McCloskeys were absolutely fantastic. And I think that the more that the RNC is reality based and reflects the actual ongoing chaos of our country and why there's a difference between the two parties, the better off the rest of the week will be. So, interesting. So, a lot of mixed responses here, and I want to talk about this. A lot of folks said that their least favorite was Charlie Kirk, Tim Scott, and Nikki Haley. That just shows how based this audience is. And there really are sort of grade levels of right-wingers, conservatives, America Firsters, boomers, Gen Z types that follow me, that read my work, that are viewers here. And it might be puzzling to some sort of more mainstream card-carrying standard issue type Republicans. It's confusing because you think to yourselves, well, they're better than the Democrats and the Hollywood celebrities that they dragged out. And yeah, but that's not the bar that America Firsters set. We have a higher bar. And all you have to do is look at 2016 and how Donald Trump smashed the rest of the Lilliputian establishment Republican rivals in his primary. And that's what we see, right? That's what we perceive in the Tim Scotts and the Nikki Haleys of the world. We're not comparing them to Nancy Pelosi. We're comparing them to other nationalist, populist standard bearers. And this is really about what the direction of the Republican Party is going to be. Are we going to revert and go backwards after, knock wood, hopefully we get another 4 years of Trump? What is the future? Is the future Marco Rubio? Is it Nikki Haley? Is it Tim Scott? Or is it people who fashion themselves and are in the mold and model of a Pat Buchanan, who was the precursor for the candidate Donald Trump, right? And often we see glimpses, right? There's this push and pull. It's like this. There used to be, remember this? There was this cartoon. It was called the Push You Pull Me. And it was like this two-headed, I guess it was a moose, and they were always going in opposite directions. And I think this is a perfect metaphor for the Republican Party, because these two things are not going in the same direction, right? The Bush, Romney, Rubio, Beltway Republican moose is headed this way, right? And we want to push the party in the opposite direction, right? Which is what people voted for when they chose Donald Trump in 2016 over all of these establishment candidates. Get it? Get it? I know that might be overwhelming to a lot of people who, again, are comparing your average Republican speaker at the RNC to the DNC. But we need to look forward, and we also have to be self-critical. And I also think that it's really important to do the evangelical work of explaining to people who are still sort of stuck in this kind of Fox News normie model. And I know a lot of the audience, especially from Facebook, who's watching, and I've only recently included Facebook as part of these live streams. I've been doing them on YouTube and Periscope now for the last couple of months. So I'm so appreciative of all the new Facebook viewers who are tuning in. But if you're sort of late to this discussion, if you're late to this debate, I've been front and center of it, and trying to do my best to cheerlead and promote and support what I consider the future of the Republican Party, nationalists, America First, who will carry the mantle of America First, whether it's on immigration, family policies, social conservatism, that when Trump is at his best, when he's not listening to the establishment, when he is not co-opted by the likes of Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump represents, right? That's where we are. So tonight we've got some interesting speakers. So there's always going to be a representative from the Trump family, and that's really interesting because I see a lot of feedback from people that they didn't like Don Jr. or his girlfriend Kimberly Guilfoyle's speeches. And I'd like to see, but I do have a number of people who thought that they did very well, and I suppose we're very appreciative of Kimberly's exuberance. And so this is very interesting. I mean, that if you take the texts of the speeches, of course, they're, for the most part, completely unobjectionable, except for what I considered the fatal sin of Don Jr.'s speech. Okay, it had nothing to do with his eyes, which a lot of stupid people were going on and on about last night on Twitter. It had nothing to do with his energy level. It had nothing to do with the volume of either Kimberly's speech or Don Jr.'s speech. It's when they capitulate to left-wing narratives. All right, most based conservatives, I don't care what generation you are, because this isn't just a Zoomer thing. I am not a Zoomer, right? I'm not a Zoomer. I'm not a Boomer. I'm a Gen Xer, but it's really a mindset. It's not about your age. But when many of these people who unfortunately are the front and center as the vocal ambassadors for the Trump campaign bend their knees and bow to the big lie about George Floyd, or of course it's Jacob Blake now, this is blurring the lines between the parties. We need a clear moral distinction between people who are willing to stand up to the big lie that America is inherently racist, that the cops are all Nazis, and the other party, which is the party of the mob. You do not give in to the mob. And of course, we have a president who tweets very strongly, right? To quote President Trump, one of his favorite adjectives, very strongly encourages Americans to stand up to the mob. And I was going to bring up the exact quote, but it was really, really cringe-inducing when Donald Trump, sort of unsolicited, right? Nobody was attacking him. He's not on some, cable show having to virtue signal, anything like that, right? If you are not in a position where you feel sort of put upon, to extract some sort of virtue signaling, why are you doing it? Like, what do you have to gain from that? And that's something that was similar with the Tim Scott speech as well. So I know a lot of people were very pleased with Tim Scott's speech. And, all yesterday, we had many touching stories about Republican elected officials who've come up from poverty, single parents, immigrant parents, this and that. And of course, this is my story, right? This is the American dream story. But for a lot of young people, especially, and a lot of Americans who are now struggling to make it, whether it's because of the oppressive COVID conditions or the chaos and the anarchy that has spread from Portland and Seattle and the Twin Cities and Baltimore and Philadelphia and LA into the suburbs, into flyover country, where you have to worry if somebody's going to show up on your lawn. Or like in Columbia Heights in DC, these infamous videos now of people just trying to enjoy their dinner and have these brats. A lot of them are your white liberal college undergrads who have nothing else to do, but many of them are militant Black Lives Matter leaders as well. forcing people to kiss the ring, right? Or if any of you are Superman fans, kneel before Zod, right? That's what's happening here, the kneel before Zod movement. And this is more important right now to people than hearing from Tim Scott or whoever else how much money the Trump administration has given to historically Black colleges and universities. Okay, that's the kind of pandering we don't need. Okay, leave that to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrats. So that's, sort of the kind of higher level of standards, expectations, and analysis of the convention that I'm trying to, get across to you all. And on Saturday on Sovereign Nation, I'm working on my lineup for Newsmax for my Convention in Review show. Hope to have some great guests for you, really learned and experienced America Firsters and representatives of the younger generation as well. So make sure to tune into that. Let's see. And also, let's see, I think the convention formally starts in about half an hour, right? So I'm going to hang with you. I'll get off a little bit earlier. So if you guys want to tune in. And that's really interesting. That's my other question to you right now, too, while we're doing this interactive segment. Where are you watching the convention? How many of you are watching it online? Are you watching C-SPAN because you get uninterrupted coverage? And I know that Newsmax is offering coverage all night, as well as OANN. Many people were very unhappy that Fox cut out very early and instead had the likes of Juan Williams and Donna Brazile trashing and commenting. A lot of praise, of course, from Fox personalities last week for Joe Biden, a lot of simping of the Democrats. So where are you all watching the convention? C-SPAN, C-SPAN, C-SPAN. A lot of people are watching it on Breitbart. I see a lot of OANN. Let's see. Adam Jeffrey says that Fox News sucked. People are seeing it on Facebook. And I think this is very significant. I think it's very significant. Of course, the White House feed or the formal GOP feed. I see some votes for RSBN online. Online, wherever, Newsmax, yes. That's, of course, where I'm a commenter, contributor, as well as show host. So that is my number one vote tonight. And I just want to say something about C-SPAN, too, because if many of you have been following me and my career over the last 30 years, you know that I have a soft spot for C-SPAN. Brian Lamb, who's the founder, a visionary, really, I think one of the first citizen journalists, if you think about it, had this brilliant idea, very simple idea. Let's put cameras in the galleries in Congress in both chambers so that taxpayers could see what their public servants were doing, whether or not they were really doing the business they were elected to do. And this was a fight for them to get those cameras in there. And of course, they've been broadcasting the conventions for decades now, pretty much since the founding of C-SPAN. And their programs, their interview segments, I always found to be my most favorite things that I ever did. As you know, I worked for Fox for upwards of 15 years and have been on pretty much all the networks. Did the Today Show, Good Morning America, The View. How many of you remember my appearance on The View? My first and last one ever. Never got invited back there again. But I loved the long form interviews on C-SPAN and also the callers and the feedback. And there was always crazy people on all three lines. I think they have they divided it now into Democrats, Republicans, Independents, or whatever. But I loved fielding phone calls from crazy people. Those are some of the most entertaining moments I've ever had. So glad to see that. Let's see. Somebody wants to reach out to me for a media inquiry. Email me. Write this down. I'll say it slowly. Michelle Malkin investigates at protonmail.com. Let's see. Somebody asked, how is Officer Daniel doing in Oklahoma City? Thank you for asking. That's Daniel Holtzclaw, still fighting on appeal. His conviction, unjust and wrongful, that occurred in this, basically the first powder keg under the Obama administration during the summer of Ferguson and Baltimore and all that. And of course, the vulture lawyer that is representing all the lying liars of the accusers in his case who accused him falsely of sexual assault are being represented by none other than Benjamin Crump. Benjamin Crump. Somebody asked me to put my email in my feed. I'm going to do that right now for you, folks. And so that's what I wanted to get to here. Now, this might be a little bit complicated because I want to share screen a couple of videos for you related to the Jacob Blake case as well as Columbia Heights. Before I do, I want to answer as many of your questions as I can. By the way, you can watch all of my work on Daniel Holtzclaw at my youtube.com/Michelle Malkin page, and I'm hoping to do a future program on it on Newsmax to update everyone. Remember to tune in Saturdays, 7 p.m. on Newsmax, and join me on Sovereign Nation, my half-hour weekend weekly show. Let's see. Somebody likes Attorney Crump. Well, I highly recommend that you read the piece that I did on all the lies that he's told. He is of course, one of the big propagandists who spread the debunked hands up, don't shoot lie in the Michael Brown case. He's also responsible, if some of you watched a couple of my interviews with Joel Gilbert, the documentarian, who wrote, produced, published a book, as well as the film, The Trayvon Hoax. Benjamin Crump induced perjury on the part of Rachel Gentile, a woman who knew nothing about the Trayvon case, but essentially posed as, was an imposter fraud who claimed to be Trayvon Martin's girlfriend. His real girlfriend was a woman named Brittany Diamond Eugene, who Joel Gilbert tracked down. Do you know about any of this? Have you seen it in the mainstream media? One of the shocking revelations that Joel Gilbert made in my last interview with him here on Malkin Live was that 3 times he had been scheduled to go on Fox News to talk about the Trayvon hoax, and 3 times he was canceled. Something's going on at that network, and it is not good. And it's really too bad that Roger Ailes is not still around, because it wouldn't be happening if it was. Am I right? And I know that there are many of you who remain very loyal Fox News fans. There's still a lot of great people there, got a lot of friends, but things are changing, and you can't ignore it, right? Let's see. I see. Yes, that's right. Screw the Pooch. I love your screen name there. Gives one of the reasons for what's happening at Fox, Paul Ryan. I definitely think that must be a part of it. Of course, he assumed a position on the board of directors of News Corp, which is the parent company of Fox News, shortly after he retired from Congress to spend more time with his family, right? And he's cashing in big time. I'm keeping tabs on all of his ventures, supposedly nonprofit, as well as his for-profit ventures, cashing in on all of his political connections and his donor base. Many of them, of course, big friends in big tech. And that's the problem with the Republican Party, right? We have so many of these so-called leaders who are there for 10, 15, 20 years. What do they conserve, right? That is one of the refrains of the America First movement and the new generation. What did Con Inc., Conservatism Inc., Big Con, whatever you call it, what have they conserved, right? They conserved their political viability, and now they're conserving a lot of private gain from their public office. We don't want people like that in charge anymore. And this is still an ongoing problem with the so-called leadership of the Republican Party. Watch out, right? How do y'all feel about Mitch McConnell? F if you're done with him, and Y if you're so happy. Yes, you're still so happy with Mitch McConnell's leadership and performance. And I'll give you a small indication of how that's going when I get some feedback from all of you. Yeah, it's a lot of F's. Okay. If you have friends and family who live in Kentucky, like, do one of these things. Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Stop that. Stop that. Right? There's that old cliche that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Okay. So, in that sense, a large portion of the Republican electorate is insane, right? Because they keep sending back Mitch McConnell, they keep sending back Lindsey Graham, right? And McRomney, Pierre Delecto, right? How is he back in office? Seriously? Losers, losers, losers. Get rid of them, right? Now or never. Why did we keep giving these people chances? All right. And this is the time to talk about it. Okay. And I know there's a lot of conflict averse Republicans out there who are like, oh, they don't, I get this in my replies a lot. Oh, Michelle, but now's not the time, right? And they're always invoking the so-called 11th commandment of Ronald Reagan, right? But that only ever applies to actual conservatives, right? Because it's also always the liberals and the squishes and the so-called moderates who are really just liberal, right? Every time, right? This has happened in every Republican primary dating back to George Herbert Walker Bush, for as long as I've been covering politics, right? Now is not the time, right? We have to unify. We have to get behind the winners and just paper over your differences. Hush, hush. No, screw that. Screw that. We've had enough of that, right? And when our people win, right, the 11th commandment never applies to people like the people who run the Lincoln Project and the never Trumpers, right? Oh, they run their mouths all day long, right? They turn up the volume to 11, right? Louder even than Kimberly Guilfoyle was last night. Now is not to be the time to be quiet about all of this stuff. And it is the time right now during the convention to remind the Trump administration and remind the Trump campaign why he was elected, why he got your vote. And I'll just tell you why he got my vote. It was because he was the best hope that we had for stopping mass migration. Mass migration, which is the recipe for the Democrats' permanent ruling majority. And I'm not just talking about illegal immigration. I'm talking about all the legal means by which our country has been transformed. Refugee resettlement, foreign worker programs, and 1 million green cards every single year. And for the longest time, the Paul Ryans of the world and the Mitt Romneys and the establishment Republicans, a lot of the people who inhabit all of the libertarian think tanks have accused people like me, doesn't matter, that my skin is, like I always say, browner than Barack Obama's, accusing me and people like me, whatever our color, of being white supremacist, racist, conspiracy theorists, and joining hands with the likes of the SPLC and the ADL to cancel us. This goes all the way back to Pat Buchanan. And the quicker that mainstream Republicans understand that this push me, pull you animal is not going to survive, and that one of these creatures is going to win, and that's what we're fighting about now. That's what we mean when we talk about what the future of the Republican Party is, and being able to have a bullshit detector about who's serious about it, who means it, and who's just mouthing the platitudes because they right? They put their wet finger in the wind. So that's why it's really heartening to me to see when I asked early on who were your favorites and who were your least favorites yesterday, because bravo to all of you who've got that BS detector finely tuned and finely honed, and keep it that sharp tonight and the rest of the week as well. So, you can call these people neocons, you can call them neoliberals, but whatever they represent what people like me want to be the past of the Republican Party. They deserve to be put in the trash bin of history. And, we have to remind our president, our commander in chief, that he campaigned on the wall and stopping endless wars. And when you measure him by his own standard and then look at the fact that night number 1 of the RNC promoted a Nikki Haley who, come on, do your homework, people, do your homework, because you can be bowled over by someone who can deliver a good speech, right? But then you have to compare it to their record, their donors, and who they actually represent, who's actually pulling their strings. Nikki Haley's agenda is not Donald Trump's agenda that he campaigned on as a candidate. She supports endless wars. She has been on every side of the issue of ending mass migration. She has waffled on dreamers. And remember, right, you're not going to get this anywhere else, right? That is why I am giving you this preview of tonight. And as we head into the rest of the week, okay? Nikki Haley condemned President Trump's ban on foreigners from terrorism sponsoring countries, the so-called Muslim ban, okay? Is she on our side? Do your homework. Do your homework. Follow the money and find the truth. That's what Open Borders Incorporated is all about. And a why or a no if you have read Open Borders Incorporated. Just curious. You can get it at Amazon.com. You can get it through Regnery. And I think it is really good ammunition for you as you head into the election, right? And here's the other thing too, right? Everybody wants to sell a book. Everybody wants to sell a book. But I'm asking you to read the book so that you can empower yourselves, right? There's a lot of great information in the book. It's not just about George Soros. It's not just about Ben the Ark and Alexander Soros, who's the son of George Soros, head of this one of the Jewish militant groups, along with all of the refugee resettlement contractors and your usual suspects with BLM and Antifa. It's not just about that. It's about making sure that you make the connections to the people who are your supposed allies on the right, who are doing the bidding of these people who are trying to cancel America, right? It's the Koch money, and it's it's Americans for Prosperity, it's TPUSA, it's YAF. And I know that this might be shocking to a lot of people who haven't been paying attention. That's why you have to do your homework. And I think this is in part why people continue to commit insanity of electing the same people and getting the same results, because they don't understand what they're actually putting into power, right? In terms of our so-called leadership. Let's see. Somebody says, for Motion Creative, we need Sarah Palin. She is a winner. Yeah, it's good to see her back in the news again. I don't know if she's sticking around or if it's just for election season commentary. Obviously, if you think about the cleavage between Sarah Palin and representing the grassroots, and then having to be wedded to John McCain, right? The worst textbook example of Beltway Con Inc. and the corrupting power of all of that. To me, it's really hard to see how you be part of that sphere and not come away sickened, tainted, and want to be done with politics. you know, I don't blame her for having stepped away from it. Yeah. Okay, so I said I wanted to play for you a couple of videos. And so hopefully I gave you enough there in terms of political commentary and RNC preview. But what I really want to talk about is with regard to the Jacob Blake case. And let me see if I can share the screen. The first thing that I want to recommend to you is my column, and you can find it at uns.com. Now, many of you have discovered that I cannot and you cannot share uns.com links on Facebook. And that is because Facebook bans all content from UNS Review, which is my new home for my columns, repository of my columns, as well as my blog posts. All right, let's see if this comes up. Yeah, there it is. I'm going to make it big. And so my column today is about Black Lives Matter's perpetual fake outrage cycle. I'm just going to go through the 10 steps here because we're seeing it unfold. I know you all see very clearly what's happening with this case in Wisconsin, right? It's the endless cycle. Step 1, spread an out-of-context video clip of a Black man subdued or shot by white cops across the national media airwaves and spread it across social media platforms as well. Step 2, riot. Check. Step 3, accuse law enforcement in America of systemic racism, decry police brutality, and demand justice for fill-in-the-blank victim, right? George Floyd, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Elijah McClain here in Colorado, whatever. Put in the victim name. Step 4, riot. Step 5, enter Al Sharpton, Benjamin Crump, Black Lives Matter chief propagandist Shaun King, and all of the rest of the racial hoax crime brigade. Step 6, persecute and prosecute the involved police officers. Step 7, BLM, burn, loot, and maraud nationwide. And that is right now what we're seeing in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Step 8, demand more funding for restorative justice, alternative policing, sensitivity training, and of course, anti-racism programs. Step 9, bury all the evidence of justified police action while screaming racism even louder. And step 10, lie in wait for the next opportunity to return to step 1. There's your 10-step plan, right? That is the perpetual fake outrage cycle. And it happens again and again and again. Manufacture, rinse, repeat. Everyone knows it, and yet it goes on and on and on. The only way to stop it is for ordinary people to expose the lies, to stand up to them, and for elected officials and campaign officials in the Republican Party to stop repeating the lies. And this was my problem with Don Jr. repeating that lie about George Floyd. I just saw a new tweet from Andy No about a new, I think it's new autopsy information with regard to George Floyd and, of course, his fatal ingestion of fentanyl, something that the defense lawyers for one of the 4 cops in Minnesota is now raising as part of that cop's defense as well. And at the end of my column, I mention what is really the most underlying, most important thing to take away when these paroxysms of the manufactured outrage erupt, right, on a routine basis now. And all of what happened over the weekend reminded me of a video that I had seen from 5 years ago. A friend of mine who is a retired NYPD officer sent it to me, of a Black activist in Phoenix named Jarrett Malkin, who at the invitation of a local TV station in Arizona, underwent life and death use of force scenario training. And I want to play that whole video for you. I'm going to share it right now because it is so important. And also let me know in comments if you're able to hear the audio, because this is super important. All right. This is a good one, I promise you.
At 9, he is one of the most outspoken critics of police use of force here in the Valley. But he gets some on-the-job training about use of force tonight.
Very interesting stuff. Reverend Jarrett Malkin led protests and marches after Phoenix police shot and killed an unarmed man. Well, tonight he gets a chance to experience the split-second decisions that police have to make when encountering a suspect.
And our Troy Hayden was right along with him tonight, getting the training as well. This must have been eye-opening.
It was a really interesting experience. And we've all watched those protests all over the country after police officers are accused of shooting people who aren't armed. But what would happen if one of those protesters felt what it's like to wear a badge and then be put in a life or death situation himself?
So I'm going to have you put the holster on right inside your belt loop there.
Jarrett Malkin gets his weapon. You might recognize him as a high-profile organizer in the minority community. Just last month, he led marches on Phoenix Police headquarters after an officer shot an unarmed man.
We want his badge. We want his gun. We want his job.
Today, he accepted an invitation to look at things from the other side, agreeing to go through a force-on-force training session with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. 3 scenarios where you have to decide to shoot or not shoot. Scenario 1 is a call about a man casing cars in a parking lot. Malkin approaches the man and starts asking questions.
What? Wave your hand. You're looking for your vehicle. What kind of car do you drive? Wave your hand. Your gun. What kind of car do you drive? It's my car, man.
Oh, Malkin, the officer, is shot. It happens that fast.
At what time did you think that it was time for you to address the use of force that was given?
When he came to the back of the vehicle, and was hiding. You know, I could sense something was wrong.
Scenario 2, a call of 2 men fighting.
What's going on today, gentlemen? What's wrong with you? What's going on today, gentlemen? What do you want? What's happening here?
What's wrong with you? Huh?
What are you doing, man?
Hey, you shouldn't approach me. He shouldn't approach me. He
We were
shouldn't
just
approach me.
arguing
He shouldn't
about what
approach me.
happened in there.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You just shot him?
Hey, he rushed me.
Tell me why you shot.
Well, I've shot because he was within that zone. You know, I felt there was an imminent threat. I didn't necessarily see him armed, but he came clearly to do some harm to the officer, to my person. It's hard to make that call. It shakes you up.
Again, and been very fast out here. I asked Malkin what his biggest takeaway from this exercise will be.
I didn't understand how important compliance was, but after going through this, yeah, my attitude has changed. This is all unfolding in 10 to 15 seconds. People need to comply with the orders of law enforcement officers for their own sake.
Thanks to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office for taking us through.
Yeah. People should comply with cops' orders for their own safety. Now, I saw in comments that somebody mentioned that even after having gone through that and acknowledge the reality of the situation, after having gone through that, Jarrett Malkin, of course, is now reverting to form, back to leading these racially charged agitation marches and anti-cop activities, right? You know, the thing is, if every journalist were forced to go through this training, you would think that there would be at least some humility, right? Some sobering epiphany on the part of these people. But, you know, the fact that that guy reverted after having gone through that, you know, maybe these people are just completely, to borrow an adjective, irredeemable, right? Irredeemable. And look, you can just Google or search on YouTube. Of course, they'll probably suppress it with some algorithm at some point. Officer shot during traffic stop, right? Some of these have gone viral all week. I don't need to show them to you. Old videos from 10 or 15 years ago, or even more recent ones from the last couple of years, of what happens when a cop hesitates, right? They end up dead, maimed, brain damaged, left to die on the side of the road. And all of this, of course, is germane because we are now getting more video clips of Jacob Blake apparently, able to resist arrest. There's some reports that he either had a knife, he had been tasered, but was still able to get up after that, had been ordered multiple times by at least 3, maybe 4 police officers who were involved in a scrum behind the car. Initially, we couldn't see it, but there was another vantage point of that has now gone somewhat viral this afternoon. And we're getting the whole truth, right? I think we're getting it faster now than we had before because some of these police unions now are really stepping up to the plate and defending their officers. But again, just to underscore this point about what was wrong with last night's RNC and Don Jr.'s speech in particular, which was one of the marquees, that was one of the supposed highlights of the night, is why are you giving in to the George Floyd lie, even as every hour now we're getting more about the truth of what happened in that case, and now, of course, with the Jacob Blake case as well. Stop the lies, all right? If you see another speaker tonight buying into BLM's propaganda, Antifa's propaganda, I want you to, first of all, tag me on it, and then use the hashtag Stop the Lies. Stop the lies, okay? If we have strength in numbers and can at least cure these simping Republicans, right? These capitulating Republicans of this disease that they have to virtue signal and to seek moral approbation, right? I talked about this with Darren Beatty on Sovereign Nation a couple of weeks ago. He did a fantastic interview with Chris Buskirk on Chris Buskirk's podcast on American Greatness about the left-wing moral imperialism. All right? Here's an imperialism that we all should unite against, right? Left-wing moral imperialism. They're the real racists. We're more compassionate to the BLM victims than they are. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Right? Agree? Give me a Y if you agree with my little rant right there. Okay, we have a couple more minutes and then I'm going to let you all go because I know you want to get started on watching. And this is what I wanted to play for you. And I know you've all seen it, but I want to share the moment. Thank you for the whys. I mentioned to you that I wanted to talk about what's happening in Columbia Heights. The accosting of restaurant patrons out on the patio, seating, just trying to eat their meals quietly, not bothering anybody. Okay. And so this is what's happening.
That's crazy. Put your mask on now, huh? Motherfucker. Hey.
Yep. How many of you saw that? How many of you are outraged by it? Here's one more that I just want to share with you. One more to get your blood pressure up before the convention starts.
We don't get it! Shut it down! Are you a Christian? Put your fist up! Put your fist up! Put your fist up! No peace! No peace! No peace! No peace! We don't get it! Shut it down! We don't get it! Shut it down! Are you a Christian? Put your fist up!
I don't know if you heard, but those animals were shouting at the woman, "Are you Christian? Are you Christian?" Right? As if they have the moral superiority to define what Christian behavior is, as they are yelling, if we don't get it, shut it down. Right? I've been repeating often over the last couple of weeks that I was attacked by the Antidefamation League and their acolytes and their minions for sounding the alarm on exactly that kind of mob invading suburbs and white communities, right? And if you look, I mean, those people were mostly white, but in the first video clip, it was a militant Black woman, right, who invoked her privilege, her Black privilege, to march up to these two innocent young people and get in their faces and spittle on them, right? While she shouted at them about racism and privilege. This, to me, those scenes are game changers. And I don't know about you, but I would like this to be directly addressed and confronted and pushed back against at some point during this convention. Why, if you agree with me, and if you don't, right? Because actually, believe it or not, right, there are people out there in Republican land who want the rest of the convention to have this patina of like, well, we have to keep it optimistic, right? And we'll just talk about growth and hope and opportunity and Reagan and all this and that, right? No, we don't pretend. Right? That's what the left does. That's what they did all last week, right? Here is your clear-cut difference between the parties, right? Why are you a conservative? Right? We believe in tradition. We believe in being reality-based. Reality-based. We are not the deniers. That is the left. And you cannot deny the reality that these mobs have an insatiable appetite, and it has to be stopped. And we have to do more than just tweet about law and order in all capital letters. How many of you still want to see our president invoke the Insurrection Act? Yes? Right? That was my dream for this convention, that at one point in one of Trump's appearances, and he's appearing every single day, he uses it to announce, yes, we are invoking the Insurrection Act. If this isn't an insurrection, what is? Right? We've got small businesses on fire. And by the way, let me just say this because a lot of people will not be able to say it, but I will. Yes, my heart bleeds for people in minority communities that have been hit by this, people in Chicago who are victims and violence and all of that, right? And yes, we should talk about Black victims and brown victims and yellow victims, but white people are suffering, right? They're forgotten men and women. Okay? And it is not a crime to talk about how white people have been affected by all of this. Those targets in Columbia Heights were a white man, a white woman, and another white woman. Right? Do they not matter? Do their lives not matter too? Do their businesses not matter? Right? And if the Republican Party shirks from this, what is the difference between the parties? Right? It can't all just be talking about opportunity zones and HBCUs and this and that, right? And, as much as I support certain criminal justice reform measures, going after wrongful convictions, we talked about the Daniel Holtzclaw case, prosecutorial overreach, right? That certainly was the case with Roger Stone and Michael Flynn. And Dinesh D'Souza, for that matter, and his prosecution over the campaign finance issues, all of that, right? As much as I care about that stuff, right? Right now, here and now, restoring law and order across the country, here in Colorado, right? I moved out here to escape all of that crap hole of DC and the swamp. And now it's in my own backyard. And it is going to invade the suburbs even more, and we need Republicans talking about it. Okay, I've gone over time. I'm going to let you go. Watch the convention. Hopefully I'll catch up with you later this week, and make sure to watch Sovereign Nation 7 p.m. Saturday for our week in review of the convention that you will not find anywhere else. Thanks for joining me. Bye. Good night.